Although the Amiga was not short of many different puzzle games and many of them were pretty good, it had a few stinkers as well. This video, however, will completely disregard these and focus only on the very best games. So if you're not subscribed yet, hit that big red button below, then grab a drink, sit comfortably and enjoy the video. A very minimalistic in design, Atomix is also very challenging. Sadly, most of the difficulty comes from the very restrictive time limit. Other than that, puzzles are very well thought through and a pleasure to solve. What's worth mentioning is that Atomix also holds certain educative value since the puzzles are chemical formulas that need to be replicated. If it didn't have as hard as time limits as it does, it definitely would have ended up much higher on this list. But because it does, it is where it is. Despite that, it's a great title and a decent addition to any Amiga collection. More commonly known as Othello, Reversi is a true puzzle classic. And since it can only be played competitively, it has to be played either against another player or CPU. Simply put, it's black versus white on a 8x8 grid board, and the goal is to fill it up with as many player pawns as possible while blocking enemy from doing the same. The pawns change color when flanked from both ends, which creates opportunities for heroic comebacks, and often the game is not decided until the last few moves. It's very strategic and entertaining, and one of the best puzzle games ever, be it this or any other version. Clockwiser, probably being one of the toughest games on this list, is also quite excellent. The pattern of blocks on one side of the screen has to be repeated on the other using rotation, while keeping in mind that blocks are also affected by gravity and some of them have special characteristics. The game is a real head scratcher, and since it's also time-based, latter levels can sometimes be extremely difficult and may require multiple tries to complete. In the end, I think that it's a game that I hate to love. Also known as Pipe Dream and having ports to most older systems, Pipe Mania is a very well-known puzzler classic, and even if the title does not ring a bell, I'm pretty sure that at the very least you've seen a glimpse of a gameplay somewhere. The goal of each of the 36 levels is to build a long enough pipeline for the liquid to flow until that aforementioned length is reached. And since pipes have different kinds of connections and show up randomly, and the liquid keeps flowing, Pipe Mania requires quick thinking and planning out ahead. It's a fun but tough game, only suffering from a bit laggy controls. The idea behind Gearworks is very simple. Basically, in each level first gear has to be connected with the last so that they both would turn. All that using randomly assigned gears of different sizes. And as much as you don't need to use all of these, optimal placement and not having any left unconnected rewards more points. The simple task of fitting all this together to build a bigger interconnected machine may seem like nothing special, but it is surprisingly addictive. Gearworks is a game that I never expected to like, so it was a huge surprise for me how much I did, at least out of all the games on this list. Heartlight is a game that I think most people never heard of. On one hand, it only ever came out in Polish, which should limit its reach. On the other, there is literally nothing to read in it. So aside from starting credits and loading screen, it's hardly noticeable and doesn't get in the way of gameplay. It's my most favorite Boulder Dash clone on the Amiga. Built-in levels are a bit more strategic than in Dash though, so at times it requires a bit of try and error. It's really a very fun game, and it having a text-based level editor is just a cherry on a pie of this little gem. The only real downside to it are the controls that feel a bit too sensitive, and that's why it didn't place any higher on this list. Locomotion is a real-time puzzler, also a very unique and often overlooked title. Graphics are very clean and simple. But for the very hectic gameplay that Locomotion has, it's okay as everything is always easy to spot and comprehend. Each stage has few stations simply named with letters connected by convoluted railway systems. And player's task is to guide all the trains to their destinations, making sure that they don't crash on the way. It seems simple, but is anything but. Very cool and entertaining game, if a bit tough at times. One Step Beyond is a sequel to the next game on this list. And that's a spoiler if there ever was one. Anyway, all aspects of presentation are top-notch and the game features pretty cool animated intro. In fact, the whole title has cartoon-like quality to it. The gameplay is based around the idea of closing platforms which main character Colin is jumping on. Challenge comes from the fact that he has to end up on a very specific one, and the ones in between first and last often have different mechanics assigned to them, like for instance propelling him automatically in a certain direction or closing other platforms around them. Really fun game worth playing. Pushover had it all. Graphics, music and sound, excellent if short animated introduction and most of all addictive gameplay. The product placement was largely irrelevant as it didn't affect the gameplay in any way. The idea here is simple. All yellow dominoes have to be knocked over in each level, always ending with a very specific one. And since there are many different kinds of dominoes, each with unique behavior, the gameplay was challenging but incredibly fun not only to play, but also to work out. Great game and a hidden gem that many may not know about. Not many games can be described as leaving a mark on the history of gaming. Lemmings is definitely one of those games. Although it spawned numerous sequels and add-on packs, it was the original, the granddaddy of all other, that is generally considered the best in the series. Excellent puzzle game that has very low entry point, in the same time being very challenging to master. All based on the unique idea of leading dozens of tiny lemmings to safety using a variety of skills that can be individually assigned to these small creatures. Easily first spot on this list, and also a game that didn't get old at all and is as fun today as it was years ago. I gotta say that going through all these games and many more that didn't get to be featured in this video was a blast. I knew that there were quite a few puzzle games on the Amiga, but never expected so many of them to be so innovative and good. You really have to appreciate that talent that went into creating ideas behind them. Anyway, if you liked the video, hit that like button, share and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And if you're feeling especially generous, consider a small donation. All the details are in the description below. It will help me make more better content and upgrade hardware I work with. But that is all for me now, so have a good one, and I'll see you next time.